Patients Getting Paid is a membership community that I'm creating to help people with chronic illness learn how to find or create flexible, remote work to better accommodate their health. I'll be sharing my experience of having to leave my job, thanks to MS, and putting together an online business and patient advocacy gigs that I do from anywhere. My bed, recliner, hospital infusion center, a beach, and it allows me to take better care of myself. When I figured it out, I wanted to share it with other chronics. Get on the waiting list today to be sure you get in when I launch it. Sign up at patientsgettingpaid.com/list. Welcome to the FUMS Now podcast show, where you'll gain information, inspiration, and motivation for living your best life with multiple sclerosis. Find us online at FUMSnow.com. I'm your host, Kathy Reagan Young. Today's guests are Kurtis Kracke and Brad Dunn, the founders of the Thermapparel company, which produces Undercool Cooling Vests that are concealable, lightweight, and comfortable to help those of us with heat sensitivity issues live our lives more fully. I look forward to trying mine out doing some gardening or at a backyard barbecue, those things that I enjoy but have had to say no to due to the heat. So let's go meet the guys and learn more about Thermapparel. Hi, guys. Welcome to the FUMS podcast show. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So I guess we'll just get into it. Give me your bios. What are your backgrounds? And I'm going to go ahead and pick one of you to speak first. How about you, Kurtis?
All right. I'm happy to go first. My name's Kurtis and Kracke, and I grew up in West Texas and then have lived all over the place. And, you know, my bio kind of wanders around like everybody else. I had a career as a photographer for about 20 years. I've had some other odd and end jobs, and, now I've wound up working with Thermapparel and trying to help bring this great product to try to help people.
That's awesome. And I want to hear from Brad in a second, but I just want to mention you have one of the all-time great names, Kurtis Kracke. Oh my God, that's so cool. And also you don't sound like there's zero West Texas in that accent. That's pure New York. How long have you been up there?
I've been up here for about 20 years, and so it's been quite a while since my days in Texas.
Yeah. Does a y'all ever slip out, or were you not a y'aller?
I wasn't much of a y'aller, but they do say y'all there a lot.
Yeah.
And
We do too in Virginia. That's why I was wondering if we bonded over that or not.
Yeah. My wife says that when I drink, it slips out.
I understand. I get a lot more Southern when I drink too. Okay. But I digress. Sorry. Sorry.
No problem.
Brad, go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Brad. I'm from Baltimore, just outside Baltimore, Maryland, originally.
Where they say hun, right? They say hun after everything?
They do.
And they have
and a little
crabs.
y'all sometimes.
Yeah, little y'all.
For
Yep.
south of the
Right.
Dix line.
Yep.
I do miss crabs. Luckily, nowadays, you can still get the Old Bay crab chips up in Rochester. So that gives me a little taste of home when I need it.
Right.
And I kind of also traveled around a lot, was up in upstate New York getting an architecture degree for school, and then came back to Baltimore, worked for a little bit, and decided I want to go to grad school, which is where Kurtis and I met.
Gotcha.
And how we got involved in making Thermapparel.
Awesome. And I'd love to say that you both have really cool names, but Brad Dunn is not the same as Kurtis Kracke.
No, nowhere close.
All right. So I love how this product and this company was founded. If you would please share the story of that Access Technology Initiative with the Rochester chapter of the National MS Society during a really hot July. And I know what that feels like. So share that story.
Yeah. So in, a while ago now, when we were still in school, in graduate school, we teamed up with a group of undergraduate students as well, who were kind of going around the Rochester area, working with nonprofits and looking for problems that they could help address. And one of those problems that came back to the university that they wanted to look at was heat sensitivity within the MS community. And from there, they enlisted my help and Kurtis's help as designers to kind of help the engineers work out something to help solve that problem.
Gotcha.
Luckily, through that whole process, we had a lot of support from our local chapter of the MS Society. We were able to go to support group meetings, meet with individuals there, also to have one-on-one sessions, meet them at their home, talk about other problems that maybe kind of folded into this as well. So it was, while we were looking specifically from like an engineering standpoint at
Mm-hmm.
the cooling issue, it was very important to us, Kurtis and I, as designers, to really look at it much more holistically and kind of view their whole experience of living and see
Mm-hmm.
how that fit into it.
That's very cool. So, yeah, I think you, Brad, touched on that your your degree is in architecture, right?
One, and then Kurtis and I met in industrial design in school, which is really kind of designing products versus
Okay.
buildings, which would be,
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. It's all coming together now.
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's making lots of sense. So I read about you both in my research for this episode. And Kurtis, it sounds like you're quite the entrepreneur, having had 3 prior businesses. Care to share a bit about those other businesses? I'm knee
Sure.
deep in developing my course and membership community for patients getting paid right now. And I love hearing how other patients have created work for themselves. And you are, in fact, a patient with a rare disease, I read. So this absolutely applies. And I may as well put in a plug while we're right here. It's just serving itself up so beautifully. So the Patients Getting Paid waiting list is available for anybody to jump on at FUMSnow.com/patients getting paid. And you can learn how to find and create work that's both flexible and remote for yourself and better accommodate your health. So, okay, quick plug. But yes, back to you. Kurtis, tell us something about those 3 prior businesses.
Yeah, I've always been one of those people that, when I was a kid, I wanted a bicycle. And so my mom said, well, go mow their lawn and make a couple extra dollars and buy yourself a bicycle. And so I did.
Smart
And
mama.
that's just kind of how I've lived my life from there on. And both my mom and my father had their own businesses as well. So to
Ah,
me, it's just kind of the way
that's
I've
what you
grown
do.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had 2 different photography businesses. I've had a construction business. This is the first product based business that I've ever been involved with. But, it's one of those things that I want to work and do the things that I love. And in order to do that, you have to be an entrepreneur, even though, I'm not a real fan of the entrepreneur word because, everybody thinks of Mark Zuckerberg and all that kind of stuff nowadays,
Right.
but, I just see it as go out and do the things you love and find ways to support it.
Yeah.
And that's what entrepreneurship is to me.
That's a great point. And it can make you, what I really like about it is it allows me to be geographically independent. So my husband had to have emergency surgery a couple of months ago and he had been traveling. I just grabbed my laptop and everything and was there for several weeks with him, but I didn't skip a beat. Not even during the hospital stay. I was in there with him for 12 hours a day, 9 days a week. And nobody that I do work with or for, nobody would have known that because, that's the kind of
Hmm.
flexibility. So I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. It
Yeah.
helps. It helps with a chronic disease too, because I've worked from infusion centers and hospitals. I've worked from bed, whatever is
Yeah.
needed. So
Yeah,
I
I
love it.
have Sherman's disease, which is a problem with the vertebrae in your back.
Hmm.
And they just didn't quite grow or develop, and nobody knows really what the cause is, and there's no cure for it. I was the kid in high school that had the back brace all the way up around their neck and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And and it has all kinds of like little weird things, quirks about it that it's like I can't touch my toes and strange things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, you got to do. And I'm also really dyslexic too, so it's one of those things that you find what you're good at and what you can work within your own
Mm-hmm.
means, and find ways to make that shine.
Yeah, right. Beautiful way of putting it. Love it. So, Brad, I read that I'm calling it a prior life, you worked on medical products. That's intriguing. What does that mean?
Yeah, so actually, part of it was one of the reasons Kurtis and I got involved in the Undercool and Thermapparel was at that time I was also working at RIT with a local hospital, working on how they could improve blood transport within the hospital from the blood bank to operating rooms and places like that. And in that process, one of the key things is they have to be able to keep the blood at certain temperatures at certain times in that process, right? So in the blood bank, it stays at a certain temperature so that way it can stay longer. And then once it gets to the operating room, it needs to be at a completely different temperature so that way it's safe to put into the body.
Right.
And so what we kind of were working on was using what we not the same thing, but similar things to what we use in the Undercool, which are phase change materials, and using that to help kind of allow the blood to be at the optimum temperature at the different stages of the process. And because of that work was why the engineers kind of brought me in to help on the cooling vest.
That's so cool. I always say everything prepares you for the next thing, right? So if you look at my career on paper, you go, what in the hell was this chick smoking? Because it seems like it's all over the place. But there is a thread running through it of like community building and, you know, relationships and all of that. It's just was coming from different angles, and it all prepared me for where I am right now. So
well, you learn from one thing to the other, and you take that learning and you apply it to the next thing. And
right.
you know,
well, you hope you learn.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
Sure too.
So, Brad, in the team bio on your website, I saw that you mentioned that you have a family connection to MS. Was that family member one of your first prototype recipients, and did they help in development and all, and testimonials in the end? I would hope.
So it was actually not. I will call her part of my family. It was one of my best childhood friends.
Gotcha. Family by choice.
Yes. From a very young age, we kind of hung out together and did things together. And originally, her mother was diagnosed when we were in middle school. And that was pretty much all that at that time I knew about it, right? She's a very active woman, goes out, but still bikes all the time, bikes with my parents a lot. And at the time, I actually related it more to ALS, just because that had been something that had affected my family. My grandfather passed away from ALS, and just neurological condition must be the same thing, even though definitely not the case. Then kind of hearing about this project at school, I was like, oh yeah, I jumped on it right away. And it's just been really interesting. We gave her some prototypes early on to use biking. To try out, and she has a vest now once we went into production. And actually, unfortunately, that friend also was diagnosed within the last year with MS.
Gosh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, she's doing great. I think it was, the initial shock is a lot of kind of how do you deal with it, but she's doing great now. She's actually in her PhD at Cornell at the moment.
Rock on. She sounds like an FUMSer.
Yeah.
She sounds like she says FUMS a lot.
Yes, she does.
Send her our way. Well, and speaking of testimonials, you have a ton on your website, which is awesome because I know everybody's kind of gotten in, particularly, I think this was born of the, Amazon.com world, but you look for that. You look for the reviews of real people, and you guys have a ton, which is awesome. It's always good to see what others, that others have found a product helpful. And I recognized a few friendly faces up there, too, from within the MS content maker space, like Dave Bexfield from ActiveMSers.com and Meg Llewellyn from BBHwithMS.com. Great content makers for MS, great advocates, and just great human beings. And they have some great things to say about how this vest is helping them. You did extensive research for this before you even developed it. You kind of hit on that a minute ago. Can you tell me about that? These discovery calls and prototypes?
Yeah.
got it, Kurtis.
Okay. One of the, Brad had mentioned the working with the local chapter of the National MS Society here. And that gave us access to quite a few people there. And, as word kind of got out that we were working on this, they told their friends and their friends told their friends. And we started.
So on,
and so on.
And so on.
Yeah. And so we got to talk to lots of wonderful people on the phone. Plus, because we were working on this as a project at school at Rochester Institute of Technology, they have this, I don't know what I could call it, but just like the world's largest science fair. They have it once a year, and every department of the school has 2 or 3 booths, and everybody makes something, and there's like 20,000 people come to the campus and walk around and see the cool things that people are making. And we had a booth, and so we're like, know anybody that has MS, come talk to us. And so we got lots and lots of people that really wanted to tell us their stories and what their experience was with MS. And and I think that's how Brad and I were able to look at it from that holistic perspective that he was talking about earlier, because we found out that, cooling is the problem, but there's a much more problems than just that. You want to be able to go out and not look like you're wearing some kind of bizarre device,
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's very cool. And there are a ton of cooling devices out there and lots of, cooling vests. But something that really resonates with me is that this was designed with people with MS in mind. It was specifically designed for us, which is cool. I love that. Like I said, that really resonates with me. Is Undercool available everywhere?
Yeah. It's
ship everywhere?
available. Yeah.
Okay.
We've shipped in 14 different countries. We've shipped one to all 50 states. We have people selling it at a store in Australia and New Zealand.
Down under. No rules. That's down under. No rules, just right.
Down under.
I like to try out my different accents. If you listen to this podcast, everybody knows I like my accents. So that was it. That was my attempt.
Yours is much better than mine.
Yeah. I don't have much of a Barbie.
That's so cool. Well, guys, I really appreciate you chatting with me today and sharing this wonderful product that can be so helpful to the FUMS community. And speaking of which, a little birdie told me that, and by little birdie, I mean Julia Kracke. Again, I love that name. That is your wife, and she is part of your team, which is very cool. So that little birdie told me that you have a special offer for FUMSers. So care to share?
Sure. It's 10% off for anybody that wants to come to our website.
Yeah.
And that's at www.thermapparel.com. You can call us at 855-232-7233. And Julia will be happy to talk to you. She's wonderful at talking with people and understands all of the issues that can go along with everybody's needs.
When you go to the website, you want to tell us, how do you get that 10% off?
Yeah, so it's just going to use FUMS as the code for the 10% off. And that's just when you go to checkout, there'll be a coupon box and just type in FUMS.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks, guys. You're really cool. I've been dying to say that this whole interview. So, yeah, you guys are really cool. No
pun intended.
Well, a little pun intended. Anyway, thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it. And thanks so much for the 10% off. Really appreciate that as well.
Oh, thank you,
No problem.
Kathy.
Thank you.
Kurtis and Brad are great. I'm anxious to get my Undercool vest and give it a try. I'll let you know what I think. Does this podcast provide you information, inspiration, motivation? How about a giggle now and again? If you'd like to see the FUMS podcast continue and show your appreciation, your contribution would be so greatly appreciated. Just go to patreon.com. That's patreon.com/FUMS and see what kind of rewards are waiting for you to thank you for your contribution. Sending a shout out of thanks to my wonderful podcast editor, Steve Woodward of podcastingeditor.com. If you have a podcast or want to start one, Steve's the best in the business. He's running some amazing specials right now to help people dip their toes into the world of podcasting. So head to podcastingeditor.com right now. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you listening to the FUMS podcast show. Be sure to subscribe to it so you won't miss an episode. You can do that right on the website at FUMSnow.com. While you're there, sign up for the free email list so you'll be among the first to know of any new findings in MS research, new therapies and products, as well as any blog posts and podcast episodes I release. Want to chat with others in the FUMS community? Join us on Facebook at FUMS Now. Thanks again, and don't forget to talk to the stupid disease as it deserves. Tell it FUMS every day.